If Jeffrey Epstein had gone to trial, the world might have looked very different, because his arrest in July 2019 wasn't just about one man. It was about power. It was about access. And it was about what might have come out under oath. Jeffrey Epstein was charged with federal sex trafficking of minors. Prosecutors described a network that spanned decades. Manhattan, Palm Beach, a private island in the Caribbean, flights on private jets, allegations involving underage girls recruited and abused in exchange for money. This wasn't a small local case. This was a federal prosecution that had the potential to expose names, timelines, and connections inside a courtroom. And that's the key word: courtroom. Because trials are different than headlines. In a trial, witnesses testify under oath. Evidence is cross-examined. Documents are entered into public record. Lawyers dig into financial records, phone logs, travel manifests. And if the prosecution's case is strong, the defense responds. Discovery would have forced transparency. Instead, on August 10th, 2019, just weeks after his arrest, Jeffrey Epstein was found dead in his jail cell at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Manhattan. The official ruling: suicide by hanging. But what made the public reaction explosive wasn't just his death. It was the timing. He had been denied bail. He was facing the possibility of decades in prison. He had reportedly attempted suicide weeks earlier and was placed on suicide watch, then taken off it. On the night he died, he was alone in his cell. The two correctional officers assigned to monitor the unit later admitted they had fallen asleep and falsified records. Security cameras outside his cell reportedly malfunctioned. The Attorney General at the time called it a perfect storm of screw-ups. And that phrase stuck because it sounded unbelievable. One of the most high-profile inmates in the country, facing federal charges tied to powerful elites, in a federal facility, and everything that could go wrong did. Now here's where the trial that never happened becomes important. When a defendant dies before trial, the criminal case against them ends. There is no testimony, no cross-examination, no courtroom questioning of alleged associates, no public airing of potential client lists. Epstein's death didn't just close his case. It eliminated the possibility of a public federal trial against him. And that's what keeps the suspicion alive. Not because there's proof of murder, but because of what never happened. Imagine a trial in open court, victims testifying, financial documents presented, flight logs discussed under oath, names brought into official proceedings. Even if those names weren't charged, they would have been questioned. Instead, that process never occurred. Ghislaine Maxwell was later convicted for her role in recruiting and grooming underage girls. But her trial did not turn into a sweeping exposure of global elites. It was narrow, focused, controlled. The broader network many people expected to see laid out in court never fully materialized in the way the public imagined. And so, the central question remains: was Epstein's death a catastrophic failure of the prison system? Or did it conveniently prevent a federal courtroom from becoming the most explosive legal stage in modern history? The official investigations concluded suicide, but the procedural failures are undeniable. 2 guards asleep, logs falsified, cameras malfunctioning, a cellmate transferred, a detainee previously on suicide watch left alone. Even if it was suicide, the optics were devastating. Because when institutional incompetence intersects with powerful connections, public trust collapses. And once trust collapses, suspicion fills the gap. That's why years later, people are still asking questions, not because there's verified evidence of a conspiracy, but because the circumstances allowed doubt to survive. Jeffrey Epstein's death didn't just end a man's life. It ended the possibility of a public trial that might have forced answers into the open. And until people feel like those answers exist, the debate will continue. Because sometimes what didn't happen is just as powerful as what did. And the Epstein trial never happened.